Computing the average pay per week. How do we do it? Well, I'm going to show you, a bunch of different ways to do this. But mostly we're going to combine SUMPRODUCT and COUNTIF. Let's take a look. We just have a bunch of weekly payrolls. We have hours, we have a rate, but we don't have a total. And that's what's critical here. If we had a total, we could just use the average if and average if functions, but we don't. So we have to go in and we have to come up with a way to do this. There's a straightforward approach and there's a kind of a workaround. We have this SUMPRODUCT COUNTIF. Why would we use SUMPRODUCT and COUNTIF? We need an average. So SUMPRODUCT is going to count up whatever we define, and then we need to divide it by the number. Here is an average, D7, I7 greater than 1. And the question is, why aren't you using this? I said there's more than one way to do this. How does this work? We summed everything up, and then we just took an average. If this sum pay is not available, you're going to have to use this formula. Let's say this was hidden. You're going to have to use this SUMPRODUCT and COUNTIF. Otherwise, you could add another row and then take care of this and this. Use the average if. This total here, you can just go D5 times D6 and then just add them all up. You could use SUMPRODUCT and do the same thing. So there's just a whole bunch of different things I threw in here because you're going to go, well, Brad, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, that's what I was thinking when I put this thing together is, what if I want the total? Here's the total pay for 6 weeks. Anyway, here we go. SUMPRODUCT D5 I5 times D6 I6. What are we doing? Well, we're doing the exact same thing here, right here. Okay, C5 I5, C6 I6. Well, it should be D. But you can see where there's no problem putting in text. Here, we actually could put C and D. You see where here? I just put C here, CD, but here I'm putting D. You get the same thing. And all we're doing is sum this to this. Take this and multiply it. Take this and multiply it. Hence, SUMPRODUCT. Well, we're multiplying and then we're adding them up. Simple enough. The outcome is 1831. And how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All we're taking is 1831 divided by 6. Well, we can put this all in one little packet, include these two functions, and make it greater than 0. Because what happens if we have a 0? It's going to throw an error. You see right here? 0 times 16, it's going to give us 0. And we don't want to include that in our average because it'll throw, as I've shown many, many times, that if you're averaging, it's going to throw your average way off if you include a 0. Do we need to take a look at the array? Here we go, F9. All we're doing is 391, 608, 450, 40, 44, 388. I threw in this other information just so it's easy to follow. COUNTIF is doing what? It's just going to look at this range, and it's just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it's going to go, well, greater than 1, that's going to be 5. If we look here, F9, it better be 5. It just grabs 366, too. It just gives us the answer. What if we do this? I don't know. F9 doesn't work. What if we grab all of this? F9, it's going to be the 322. Nope. You never know. When you're messing around and you're trying to look under the hood, sometimes you just have to highlight this whole thing and go F9. And that's what this output is. COUNTIF, D5, great, that's 5. If we want to just see SUMPRODUCT, this, F9, it's going to be 1831. 1831 divided by F9, 5 is equal to, it's going to be 366. Got it? I hope so. Here, if you just say screw the different functions, you can do it. And then if you just say, I don't want to do this because I'd have to make all these changes in the event that I had to add another, I had to put another payroll in between here. You'd have to do all kinds of modifications, but then you can just go SUMPRODUCT C5 I5. But if that's driving you nuts, just change this to D. And lastly, you're just going to sum this up. Over here, is pretty much what I just translated. Here's our anatomy. Our average, if I've shown you, greater than 0. Has to be greater than 0. Otherwise, look what happens. We have 366. Get rid of this, and your number is going to be lower. Too few argument. Oh, it's because I have average if range criteria. No, average if. So you see what happens if you include that 0. This is F9. Let's see if we can duplicate this and find a 0 in there. There's the 0. Here is the correct average. This is what happens when you include the 0 in your average. It just blows it up. And now you see they're in the correct format. Hopefully that was helpful and it's easy to understand. Brad Williams, XL Primes.